Let the magic rise.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
This is London Calling.
My family and I. Hey, folks. Welcome to Jingly-Jangly. Fake news and imaginary views for the post-truth society. Yes, your antidote to reality with me, Olly in Europland. Jingly's Voice of America, Gary Branson in California. And you, if you want to call in to check on our general sanity. Bloody great big punch-up today. We're talking Brexit. Hurrah! Not that I'm biased when it comes to this. The ruddy great big BrExpat debate. Yeah. British migrants from Maine, Peter Heskett in Spain, and Brexiteer Mel Carlow talking sense from Germany. We aren't biased. Peter will not be made to look like the absolute idiot that any Europhile must surely be. No bias here. Not on the Jingly. And even if you are an idiot, pro-EU remain a type. Because we're impartial. Isn't that right, Gary? We're impartial, yeah? No Gary. Have we got... Oh, let's have a roll call. I'll tell you what, Skype is so bloody useless, isn't it? Peter Heskett, are you there? I bet he's on mute. He's probably on mute. Mel Carlow.
Hi.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Gary. We've got no Gary. I've got no US correspondent to tell me what's going on in the world, to tell me about Trump's latest antics. But I've got Mel. And Peter's on the way. He's probably working out how to use Skype. Peter, are you there? Yeah. It's just you and me, Mel. Mel Carlow. I will give you a proper introduction. You've never done this before, have you? This is your first radio show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have been on a radio show talking about GMOs before, but not on a talk show.
Was that Peter? Is that Peter come to life?
Yeah, I'm coming. I've got to give up on fancy headphones. You just kind of be all blurry. Anyway, good evening.
Okay, cheers, Peter. He was trying to sort out a headset just for me, and I appreciate that for this show. Have we got Gary? This is the kind of typical top of the show type thing, guys, where you have to find out who's actually connected on Skype and who isn't. And there you go. Yeah. You're listening to Revolution Radio, Jingly-Jangly here. And thanks very much indeed for having us on the network. You know, it's great. We really enjoy it when we can get through. It's terrific. And tonight we have got a big show all about, basically Brexit, and looking at it from the point of view of British expats or migrants, British migrants, more to the point, living abroad, doing their thing in Europe. And one of them's in Germany and one of them's in Spain. I'm in Spain. So one of them, the one in Germany, that's Mel. That's the girl, yeah? She's actually a Brexiteer. So we're going to find out why, because that kind of doesn't add up, particularly when you consider she's also she's a human embodiment of the UN. She's got so many things going on. She's half this, bit that, bit the other, loads of stuff. She'll tell us about that. And Peter is as English as they come, and he wants to remain There's no Little Englander going on there, I'll tell you. So we're going to find out a bit about what these guys, and hopefully, I'm going to have a co-host as well. Let me just have another go. Try and get Gary, because it would be really nice. I know everybody wants to know what are the latest executive orders and what have you in Trumpton. But no, he's not.
Yes.
Not coming.
Yes,
up.
I'm
Gary.
here.
Good
I
Lord,
have
man.
time.
Gary. Oh, it's good to hear you. It's good to hear you.
Oh.
How are you doing? What's going on?
Oh, life is great. Life is fun and amusing. How's life?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's all very good. We're very excited over here with the prospect of, the EU imploding and America going to war with Iran, and we're generally excited. What's the latest? There's coachloads of migrants being tossed over the border to Mexico or something, and Tillerson's trying to steady the ship or something, and I don't know. Is it really worse now than it ever was for the migrants, really, genuinely, under Obama? Because last week in the show, I brought up this point, and it was pointed out to me that there were just as many migrants being chucked over the border under Obama. And so tell me, what's the change? And is it as draconian as it looks from the outside world?
Well, it continues to be as draconian as it looks from the outside world. And Obama was every bit as draconian, so it's not like it has gotten noticeably worse than under the deporter-in-chief, although it seems like Trump is doing his best to make it as much worse as possible. Like just this last week, there was a guy that they had just deported to Mexico, and he was from one of the more violent, like drug violence related areas of Mexico, and rather than go all the way back home after being tossed over the border, he went and jumped off the nearest bridge and died.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Well, it's always nice to know, and we can count on you for a happy story, Gary. There must be a lot of depression going on in the migrant community. They must feel a little bit precarious in their situation in the US. A lot of the folks.
I mean, you think about it. Put yourself in the shoes of the average migrant worker who's here without documentation, jumped the border just like Christopher Columbus did, and you hear everything on the
probably
news.
Killed less people than Christopher Columbus as well.
We'll give him time.
Yeah, true.
But you hear Trump is coming for you, and they get you, and they toss you over the border, and it's like your third time being deported because life sucks so bad at home that you're willing to.
Hold on a sec. Hold on, Gary. Look, yeah. Peter, are you there?
Yes.
Look, just put yourself on mute just for a second, yeah? Have a bit of radio decorum, man. I can hear you. I don't know what you're doing in your study there, but I'm gonna ask you about that in a minute. Gary.
So.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're on your third try to get to America and make it, because things are happening like the children of families in your neighborhood are being kidnapped by drug cartels in order to force you to go work in their cocaine processing facilities. That kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, I know. I know. We got quite a few taxi drivers in Valencia actually that come from Bolivia, and they come over because they don't want to be ransomed.
Exactly.
I actually have a contribution to make on the subject.
Go on. Okay, this is Mel Carlow. Okay, I'm going to introduce our guest now, because we actually already are seeing parallels between what's going on in the US and what's going on in Europe. So let me introduce Mel first. She used to work for Amnesty International, doing some fundraising, and she's an activist on Facebook. She's got a great page, Awaken Films, where she shares and cares, basically. And she's a practitioner of fine arts. She lives in Germany. She's half Spanish, part French, Swiss, Belgian, Portuguese, and she's actually more pro-Brexit than Remain, and she's going to explain why. Mel Carlow, thank you very much indeed for coming
Hi.
on the show.
Sorry,
Hello.
I did. Hi, nice to meet you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
It's all right. We're
there's
used
some
to
things
it.
that you
Yeah, no,
don't know about
please.
me, which is that I was born in Central America, and I actually originally moved to Europe when I was very young. But I went back to live in Central America, and I was there in the last decade. And I actually had to leave the country because I had so many incidences that involved guns and kidnappings and things like that that I almost considered myself coming back to Europe as a refugee. So kind of like I have an understanding of why people in Latin America are leaving their countries, and especially being born in Guatemala, which is has a very high population that emigrates to the United States, and our economy is very dependent on the United States. So I have met a lot of people that have gone over illegally and come back to Central America after having lived in the United States as well, and have also lived successfully. But I think I understand the mentality of people that are kind of running away to the United States at the moment.
Okay.
So that's all I wanted to say.
Mel, you clearly see this being more, pro-Brexit, and I know you're not a great fan of the EU, so you clearly see this from a bunch of different angles. So that we're going to have an interesting chat. I want to introduce Peter as well, who is taking the side for the Remainers. Peter Heskett, who is an old chivvy. He's a bit of an old friend of mine, actually. I know him from Valencia, and he's very good to talk about this because he runs an English language school in Valencia. So he deals with a lot of English folks. He's heavily enmeshed in the British expat community. The British are very good at this. Everybody else is a migrant, but we're expats. But Peter, you do have a good sense of opinion amongst the migrant community of the Brits, the British in Europe, on the continent.
Yeah. Well, my story is nothing like Mel's, I'm afraid. Although, funnily enough, my parents were born in Chile, so there's a little bit of South America there, but I am kind of English and a bit of Welsh as well. But
we'll forgive you. We'll forgive you for that. Right.
Well,
I love
it explains passion as much as anything else. But the
right.
the whole Brexit thing is just, I did history years ago at university, and when you study something like that, it affects the way you look at life. And if you look at history, it does have a habit of repeating itself. And about 100 years ago, we had the Great Depression, following bubbles and God knows what. Gary perhaps would know more about where it all started, Wall Street, people jumping out of windows. But the point is, we've had a crisis in Spain for a few years. We're just about coming out of it. And I hope I'm wrong, but my common sense says we're heading for a massive recession / depression. Because if you pull one of the cards out of the house of cards, which is the world economy, you pull out one of the cards, the whole lot's going to fall down, and or could fall down, and certainly
you're talking about Brexit, Peter, specifically when you talk about one of the cards coming out, right? Okay.
Well, I'm talking about the economy collapsing somewhat. It's already got, the pound has dropped 80% of value, which is going to tremendous knock-on effect on economic.
I think that I think that I would argue that this is not necessarily what you're saying, but possibly a controlled demolition and something to do more with problem, reaction, solution. So the problem being that it can implode, and the solution being that we can fix it by creating a supranational European state. So that's kind of from the conspiracy theorist angle.
All right. This is going to be a fun day, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we're seeing this. So, okay, Gary, what we've got here, we've got Mel Carlow, she's clearly a fake news conspiracy theorist type character, from what I've heard so far.
Totally, yeah, yeah.
And then we've got Peter, and I don't know. I mean, I think he's in the expat club at the moment, actually, and I reckon that he's there stood around with all the lads and they're having a G&T, and we're gonna try and work this out. But the fact is,
I'm back again.
Okay, good. That's Skype, Peter. People come in and out. I was just insulting you while you weren't on sharing the call. So yeah, so Gary, but we actually have a very, very similar situation, don't we, in the States and in Europe, so far as migration is concerned. And it boils down to people just wanting a better opportunity. But also in South America, it's like drug barons and what have you. In the Middle East, we're bombing them out of their houses. They haven't got anywhere to go. What responsibility is there in this administration to consider that? Is there any? Was there ever any?
There is almost uniform responsibility for this administration and for the American people in general for both of these situations. Because in this country, we love to bomb the Middle East. That's our thing. There's very few things that we in America love more than bombing the Middle East. Clearly, if all you do is look at our past history in the last 50 years, that's our biggest joy in life, is bombing the Middle East.
Well, it's good for business, though. It's good for business. The economy is thriving.
That's why it's our big thing, is because we make money off of doing it. Now, there's that part, and then there's the South America part, where the other thing Americans love is drugs. Oh, how we love our drugs. Just like anybody ever all over the world, and that's fine. But we refuse to legalize them. We make sure that they stay illegal, and so the only people making them are criminals.
Well, actually, you say that, but at least now marijuana is being legalized slowly but surely, and it's brought in billions into Colorado, as I understand it. A couple of billion or something they're reckoning now.
They've gotten so much in taxes that they are now legally required to give some of that tax money back to the citizens of Colorado because they've collected so much of it.
But nobody's calling them up to get their money because they're all so stoned. They forgot. So who cares? Free love, man. Peter. Peter. He's got a point.
You're so quaint, Olly.
Mel and Peter, he has got a point. We are busily bombing the Middle East, and that is the basis of the migration problem in Europe. No,
I think both situations that he's talking about, you have to look at contextually, because just the idea of the United States being a drug consumer is very simplified or overly simplified. In fact, the United States and the United States government have been involved in the production of drugs and the distribution of drugs in Latin America, and that has been proven over and over by the CIA, for example, getting caught drug running, or the DEA's involvement in the drug raids in Latin America.
And Afghanistan as well.
Yeah, in Afghanistan as well.
We got troops guarding the poppy fields,
Yeah, so that's one simplification. And the other one being the European migrant crisis being caused by bombs, which is actually a problem that originates historically from a really, really long time ago, that has to do with the evolution of Christianity and Muslim perspective or religion. So it's very easy to look at the problems as we see them now, but if you contextualize that historically, you can understand the reasons, and you can understand the future outcomes possibly of the situations that we're looking at.
Well, I'm with you there, Mel, to a certain extent, but I feel very strongly that ISIS would not exist if Clinton and the CIA hadn't poured tons of money into rebels. And
that is correct.
Really, I know this is really not what you expect to hear from a Remainer, but frankly, Trump has done one very good thing, and that is he has stopped Clinton continuing this ridiculous business of regime change in Syria.
Agreed.
Because
agreed,
it's a complete and utter nightmare. So Trump has got something right. Okay, where it goes, who knows? We sincerely hope that Putin isn't going to go overreach himself in Eastern Europe and start coming back again. But from my point of view in Europe is a safer place not having bombs falling over Syria and all these millions, hundreds of thousands of refugees.
Absolutely.
You know, Peter, I'm really surprised actually to hear you say that. You said yourself you might be surprised to hear this from a Brexiteer. my take on that would be that I'd be surprised to hear it from somebody who, you know, to be honest with you, but you know, and call me out here and tell me if I'm, you know, missing something. But might I take it that you get most of your news from, you know, the mainstream media? And they were so pro Clinton. Not all of it. I mean, Fox, for example.
No. I do Huffington Post and the internet a lot.
So I mean, you're aware that Clinton was getting money, or the Clinton Foundation was taking money, was receiving donations from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who are funding ISIS, backing ISIS. I mean, that to me makes her a traitor.
I believe it. I wasn't, you know, and also the emails, the server, and, you know, WikiLeaks. I haven't really looked at it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the emails didn't reveal horrible things. And the funny thing is, Trump.
I'm just surprised because not many people. No, sorry, Peter. I'm just a bit surprised because not many people that are kind of pro-Remain and all that. More, if you like. I mean, it's kind of weird to say it, but I think these days we would call it more the traditional viewpoint to be a Remainer, if you like. Whereas, you know, I mean, it's truth. 40 years ago, it would have been the outlandish view, wouldn't it? Because, well, not the 50 years ago.
Well,
anyway.
the whole thing about Remain and not Remain, it's just unfortunate. If England pull out first, and it looks like that's what's going to happen, things may well collapse around them, but we're going to be at the bottom. We're going to have 2 or 3 years of really hard times. 20%, we're 18% devaluation. It'll be down 25% off. They won't be able to afford to pay Spain for the veg.
Devaluing the pound, you mean?
Yeah, devaluing the pound. This is unbelievable.
But
because it's changing the whole sort of framework of the world economy.
If that happens, now I'd like Mel to answer you on that, really. But I just wonder, Mel, I mean, if the pound is devalued, then, yeah, it probably will be at some stage. If everything...
Peter, it is devalued. Well, it's gone down. It's 18% less.
Let's take this to its kind of zero hedge, and that is that the EU goes down too. Then the euro will be, well, worthless. I mean, literally worthless. And people will be trading in their own currency overnight. All of those will take a hit. All of them will take a hit in Europe. And so we're all kind of trading. So the US, I would imagine there'll be a knock-on effect as well. Let's say that the US is unaffected and maybe China as well. But in terms of Europe, we're kind of all in the same boat anyway. Mel, I don't know.
So I think I would go back to something that Daniel Esterlin, I don't know if anyone's here knows of him, but he did he wrote a book. Again? Daniel Esterlin, he's a Spanish researcher. He wrote a book called The True Story of the Bilderberg Group, and he's written some other books about the EU.
Bilderberg. Here we go.
So what he would have said was that that Europe is basically being attacked by a kind of banker's coup that currently is set the entire transatlantic system into this kind of implosion under the weight of debt. And that cannot be paid despite the bailouts. And instead, the European Union is willing to destabilize the populations of these nations with austerity, with the intention of kind of, like, for example, Greece and Spain and Italy and France, and with the intention of then proposing a solution, which would be the supranational sovereign European states to come to the rescue, basically, because after this kind of chaos would come back a natural order of people wanting to work together, which I don't see how that's going to happen at this point.
That's what Kissinger said to do, wasn't it? He said, give them chaos and they'll actually, do anything they're told.
Yeah, exactly.
And you think that is a plan?
I don't think that it is. It has kind of if you read historically and look into the background, it's been said by different people throughout history, especially to do with Bilderberg group and Masonic groups and the original kind of proposals for the EU kind of had that put into its essence in a way. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to do all the research to get you the straight facts, but that's kind of
that's terrible. That's terrible. You're sacked, Mel. You're sacked. That's it. It was lovely. It was lovely while it lasted. Oh dear! I'll tell you what. We're in a pickle. We are in a pickle. It seems to me that we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. In a way, I mean, it looks to me as though the EU is going to implode anyway. I mean, look at what's going on with Greece. And actually, look at what's going on with Italy, which is a much bigger economy. The fourth largest in Europe, I think. And then look at what's going on in the Netherlands. Geert Wilders is, tipped to be the next president, or PM, or I don't know how it works over there. But basically, he is very, very right wing. That guy. I mean, he really is. That guy is. Marine Le Pen, or whatever her name is that the one? Yeah, Marine. She actually is not so right wing. She is far closer to Theresa May in terms of her sort of politics. But Geert Wilders is quite frightening, and so it looks as though the EU is going to implode anyway, Peter.
Well, people have been saying that for a long time, but it hasn't happened. And the thing is, it may happen, but it's unfortunate that we're leading the way because it's going to cause a lot of trouble. And if it doesn't go, then we're going to feel very stupid because we'll lose the international trade and lose our veto, more importantly. Europe will be just steamrolling ahead.
Yeah, but our veto, we never use that veto anyway, Peter. That veto.
The veto is crucial. The veto, with our veto, there can be no German army. There could be a lot of things.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, maybe the Germans should put a few more quid into their defense. But I mean, Trump's on about that, isn't he? Saying that nations aren't putting in their 2%. Gary?
Well, I mean, we got what? 50 military bases in Germany that are the U.S.'s military bases.
Blimey.
That's why Germany doesn't need an army, because they use arms. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good plan. Good plan. Except that then they have blood on their hands when the U.S. goes into Syria and attempts regime change there and creates an enormous, great big migrant crisis, which then France wonders why it's losing out on tourism. Europe is in such a state; it cannot continue this way. Come on, Peter, you have to defend your politics, sir.
Well, no, I think I'm quite sure Europe has changed, and my hope is that if Brexit happens, then France will vote out as well, and so the people in Brussels will finally work out they've got to do something, because all the big countries pay a ton of money to Brussels for the right to free trade. Now, I was looking on the internet, and apparently Norway, who have their free trade, they have access to free market, but they pay as much as we do per head.
They are not
Britain.
Yeah,
but they have no rights in Europe, no say in what happens, but they pay a shed load just to trade. Now, I can see that we've all got to chip in to help the poorer countries come on, like in Eastern Europe or whatever. But there is
it's more than chipping. Peter, it's more than chipping in. I mean, Britain puts in 20 billion a year to 12 billion net. Whichever way you cut it, even if you take it down to the lowest amount, it's 8 billion still. It's an enormous amount of money. I mean, and the NHS is on it's on the cusp. It's on the cusp.
No,
The
but
National
don't
Health
talk
Service.
about the poor old English chest. That's just ridiculous.
Right.
But
outsider question. Outsider question.
Oh, Gary.
Outsider question from the West.
It's the American. The American. Yeah, I forgot. Actually, most of our audience is in the States as well, so we should be polite. Gary.
Right, exactly. So my question, and I don't know, because I'm an American, a narcissistic American. Does Britain make up that money, that minimum 8 billion, 12 billion, however much money that it ends up being that they put into the EU net over and above what they get out of it?
Who wants to answer this before I savage the question?
Does Britain make money off of the rest of Europe is my question.
Right.
Well,
Who wants to answer that?
I'm going to say something on that. Going back to Norway. Now, Norway are not members of the EU, but they pay a shed load of money to be in the trading. Now, why do they do that? They're not stupid. They wouldn't pay it if they didn't need it. And they need it because they've got trade. All their trade is with Europe. And in England, UK, if we cut ourselves off from our main market, it's going to be really very sad. The car industry of a history, heavy industry, it's going to be just a load of
Mel
dodgy characters
disagrees.
in the city trading sort of things which they shouldn't be trading.
Mel disagrees. Go on.
But I think that it's quite a big difference to compare the idea of kind of European trade and international trade to what's actually happening, which is that these the system is kind of made to implode in itself because it's unrealistic for Europe to absorb all the national debts or the debt that's being created by having to support countries like Portugal and Italy. The economy isn't made to be stable in that sense by keeping these countries or having to continue bailing them out. So
hold on, Mel. Who? Excuse me. You mentioned Italy there. They are, I think, the fourth largest net contributor into the EU coffers. I'm just trying to get this.
But
just
Italy is
get
going through a recession at the moment.
Yeah, they haven't got any money.
Kind of like, which is kind of
So how are they paying anything in? How are they paying anything in?
They're not. I'm not saying that they're paying anything in. I'm saying that they are a weight on the European Union at the moment.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah.
So what's happened is that this is at the cost of the European nations, and what happens is that they are then forced to surrender the control of their economies into the EU kind of legislations, and that's the whole purpose of the situation. In a way that each country is losing on its sovereignty by becoming indebted into the European Union.
Now, Peter, you get that argument from Mel. I want to just add something to that argument and then throw it back to you, because the other thing is that whilst Italy is, there is the argument to say that they're pulling Europe down, for example, or Greece, or you could say Portugal, or Spain, or Ireland, or France. Basically, pretty much any of them, apart from Germany and the UK, actually, is pulling down the rest of the model. And you could say that the reason it's happening is because, I don't know, we're not being generous enough in Germany and the UK. I mean, it just doesn't make sense if you're going to have a single currency for it all to work, because these groups just work in such different ways and can't compete. That's why you have currencies traditionally that you can then devalue a currency to be able to compete and get business that way, because it's maybe a bit cheaper to do business in one country than another when, they can play with their currency. It's the only way they can improve, get things going again in places like Greece, isn't it, Peter? No?
Olly, I don't know anything about Greece. I really don't. All I can say is from
Spain. It's the same
Spanish
deal.
Point of view,
Andalusia versus Catalonia. It's the same deal. Actually, Spain is a microcosm of Europe, because what you've got in Spain is a lot of different regions that are totally different in so many different ways, mainly culture, but also economically. And Catalonia is, if you like, the industrial. Well, no, it's the business entrepreneurial spirit of Spain. And Andalusia, well, it gets basically really, really hot, and you just got to relax. And so they don't.
No, in Andalusia they have fantastic tourism.
Yeah, they do.
And
they have a much smaller economy.
Building economy, buildings and everything. It's very
their economy doesn't compete, and that's the difference.
Not in that way. However, there's a perfectly good Heineken factory down in Jaén, and there is stuff going on. But you're right, it's not the same.
Did you say pine cone factory?
Heineken, as in beer.
Heineken. Not okay.
Yeah, Heineken.
They've got lots of pine cones.
I was thrown off by the accent, I guess.
Gary gets excited. I tell you, he keeps chickens. Gary. He's a homesteader.
Spanky, get out of the studio. Get out, Spanky. Get.
Right, Gary. Now this is what we need.
That's a terrible way to run a show.
What we need.
Kill chickens just to run a radio show. You savage.
Look, what we need is clearly a United States of Europe, because it works in the States. I mean, you guys, you're clearly really happy and unified.
Totally unified, happy, serious love fest going on over here in the States, for sure. Now let me ask you a couple of questions of you guys, because honestly, I got no dog in this fight. I'm just trying to understand the complexities of the situation. I have a few perspectives on what I think are causes and should be kind of situations. But let me ask you guys a couple of questions here. The two biggest economies in Europe, Germany and Britain. Those are the two biggest economies. Those are also the countries who have, in the most recent times, dealt the most damage worldwide, with the possible exception of the United States.
Yeah, probably right. Sorry.
Over the last few centuries, Germany, Britain, and the U.S. have been the largest devastation-spreading forces on the globe. So my question is, should those countries, yours included, step up and assume responsibility for the devastation that they have caused, including the fact that they have wrecked the economies of all these other nations that they now look down on, especially after Germany and Britain both were rebuilt by American money after the war?
Gary's a liberal.
Conservatives are all about personal responsibility, right?
Well, I
He's got a point there.
Absolutely. Most definitely, I agree with you. However, this isn't going to happen until the people in these said countries understand the reasons behind all the destruction that has been caused by their governments. For example, Germany and the United States. Because there's been a historical development of ideals that are the ones that are pushing this destruction. And right now, you could summarize that down to what's happened in the United States with Trump and the past administration, which is a kind of like a battle between what we call the deep state, which is founded by Masonic orders and your Bilderbergs and your globalists and European Unionists versus the people that are more based on the American Constitution and nationalists and God-fearing Christian side. So I think I would characterize those two sides as possibly coming from a more Luciferian doctrine and a Christian doctrine, but that's just a point of view that I have at the moment. So it's
wait.
Anyone
Hold on.
else.
Whoa.
I'm confused.
Are you saying that
I'm
this is a battle between God and the devil?
She's a Luciferian.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that the doctrines which have moved these countries into doing the things that they have been based on ideologies, and that's what people need to recognize. And until they don't recognize and accept this, they're not going to be able to solve the situation, because it's not just being done by dumb people or ignorant people in government. It's being done by societies that are organized and groups that are organized, and they know exactly what they want to achieve and what they want to do.
Mel, tell me, did you see that? Did you see that ceremony at the tunnel opening in Switzerland?
I did. I saw that recently.
Yeah. Well, now that you mentioned Luciferian.
Yes.
That was a pretty satanic-looking ceremony to me, and there were people like Merkel there, and
it was, and I mean, there's so much.
Sorry.
If you're going to
bring me up to speed on the ceremony, what's the ceremony?
Mel, tell us about that. Yeah.
I can't remember what the tunnel is for actually.
I don't know. It's for transport, something like that.
So in Switzerland, they inaugurated the opening of this tunnel, and basically they did a ceremony for the integration, and and some of the dancing and it was all kind of very cryptic. There was no reasoning that most people could come to as to why this dance was so mysterious, and
it was diabolical,
kind of like ritualistic looking. There's some kind of like Swiss legends about the mountains, but realistically, when you look at the ceremony, it looked a bit strange.
It looked in, and also it was like,
where can I find video of this? Anybody know?
I think you can just YouTube the.
What's the name of the tunnel?
Ceremony of
Gotthard Tunnel or something? Is it? Put in satanic tunnel opening, and I promise you, it will be in the top few results. It is just amazing. It's mad. Peter, have you heard about that?
It is the Gotthard Tunnel.
Gotthard.
That's not sexual or anything, is it?
Gotthard. Ooh, I say nursey. No, it's not that kind of show. Peter, have you heard of?
I'm just looking. Yeah, satanic tunnel ritual that pops up in Google.
Sure. I tell you, these guests, they're on the thing tonight. Everyone's on the pulse.
To get back to this idea of ideology, I just feel that, well, from what I see, it's the ideology of money, because, well, just to give an example, Saudi Arabia have got this terrible war on against Yemen.
Bankers don't wear horns on their heads, though, and wait.
Let me finish. And anyway, the Saudis ordered a whole lot of arms from England. That was blocked by the Defense Secretary because it was clearly going to be going to murder lots of Yemenis. And but Boris Johnson, as Foreign Secretary, overrode it, said, well, sure, it's going to be all right. And the fact is, the order was worth a few £billion, and so
goes ahead.
The order went through, and
there was a lot of hope.
I was actually I was working for Amnesty International at the time, so that was quite personal.
I bet it was, Mel.
There
was a lot of hoo-ha about it.
Yeah.
And anyone who says Boris Johnson is innocent as a buffoon, he's a bloody awful person. He really is.
He was right about that. He said we shouldn't be dealing with the Saudis. He said that, and he kind of backtracked to I mean, he is the foreign secretary. But he did say that the Saudis are a dodgy lot, or that was his, some speech he gave. So, but he's kind of given contradictory. I mean, mate, I personally don't think that he was in charge of the Brexit campaign, and I reckon he was a Remainer all along. Personally,
I agree. I agree.
Well, I think he's just the whole Brexit thing is, as we all know, hinged on him. Without him, there would never have been a victory for Brexit. He was the only
you really think so?
sensible politician or recognised politician who was an idiot like Farage on batting for Brexit. And
Nigel Farage.
I remember what
Nigel Farage.
Independence Day, it'll be our Independence Day. Oh my God, he was such a rabble-rouser. And Oh God! And then he was interviewed the other day about poor old Tony Blair trying to put the brakes on.
Poor old. Hold on. Sorry. Hold on. Whoa. You just said poor old Tony Blair. Poor old.
Sorry, multi-millionaire Tony Blair. But one way or another, then Boris pops up saying, "Oh, nothing's changed." The votes are. Everything's changed. The pound's gone down the tubes. They're about to lose various important industries. A lot has changed.
Can I just clarify? I was presented as a Brexiter. I'm actually a Eurosceptic. I was in the UK at the time, and I wasn't really decided on which side, because I told you about the GMO situation as well.
I'm sorry, Mel. That's my fault. Fake news. Fake news. That's what we do.
So what do you mean? What was the GM thing, Mel?
So basically, one of the reasons, I mean, I don't necessarily think a European Union is a bad idea. I think that the way that this European Union is created is a bad idea.
I agree. I agree with that.
I think that we could reconstruct the whole concept of the European Union and make it a positive one and make it a useful one, where we could, put at the forefront ideas like renewable energies and kind of, other ideas that would be a lot more useful for humanity. But one of the reasons that I appreciated being part of the European Union while being in the UK was that the European Union had some protections to do with the amount of pesticides and genetically modified foods that could be consumed and sold inside of the country and used inside of the country, and that happens in Europe as well. So now that the UK is possibly leaving, that would leave them exposed to a lot of lobbying from big corporations like Monsanto. That means that your food could possibly be more dangerous to eat and your garden more dangerous to play in, because people would not be advised of the fact that their Roundup, which is a weed killer that can be used any day, has a lot of toxic pesticides that can cause cancer, for example. So that's one of the reasons.
Or kill off bee populations.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's right.
That's a good argument against Brexit. I will say that.
I agree with that. And I you know what? Here, I am absolutely certain us, three Europeans and you, anybody is going to agree with that. Peter, do you not agree with that? Yeah, I don't know what happened to Peter. Well, yeah, Mel, I think you're spot on. And I reckon that anybody on any side of the argument would agree with that, because it seems to me that there's a lot of talk about during the referendum campaign, people weren't given the arguments, or they were given a load of lies on both sides. I would say that they were just not given the arguments at all. The true underlying reasons for the EU were withheld from the British public, just as they've been withheld from Europeans, peoples across Europe, by this political project. And I used to be pro EU. I was, and I was even a pro globalist type character until I realized the kind of danger that the chaos it causes, and you just got to baby, it can be overtaken and hijacked, and that's really what you're saying, Mel, isn't it? That maybe a good cause has been hijacked by some very
nefarious
plutocrats, really. Yeah.
Quick, Mel. Get all your talking points in now while Peter is non-responsive.
So what is the feeling in Germany? Because Germany is a very conflicted nation, is it not? They still have a guilt complex off the back of World War II.
Yeah.
Even though they were taken in the same way that an idiot like me was taken in, who once voted for Tony Blair. And
you voted for him. I never voted for him.
Oh man, I did. Yeah,
I never voted for him ever. I was on mute just so I had a cough and I forgot to unmute it. Then I went back in. What I wanted to say was that
go on, Peter.
The what they did in England, what they do everywhere, is when things go wrong, they blame it on somebody else. So the Tories, Cameron, and I can't even remember his chancellors, they would put Yeah, blame the Eurocrats for the fact they couldn't control fat cat salaries, the fact that the rich got richer, and they blamed it all on Europe. It's just absolute nonsense. The only control on fat cat salary actually comes from Europe, where there is a rule whereby Christmas bonuses can't be more than 2 times an annual salary. And there was a row in the city when they complained about that. Basically, all these controls of corporate activity and abuse are down to the national governments. And our national government, or when I say our, the British national government, has failed miserably. And they blamed it on Europe. And so when the referendum came along, everyone just blamed it on Europe. Bollocks. Instantly, I'm going to become Spanish quite soon. Marcela my wife, has got her Spanish papers, and I will be following suit if Brexit happens. No, it's hopeless.
What's that?
You know, and the worst of it is, well, this business of
you talking about Brexit or your marriage?
Passport. No, I'm talking about that carrying a UK passport will be just. Right. I know so many people have been all rather clever, as you are, saying, oh, yes, so Brexit, that's a good idea. And they're quietly getting their Irish passport, or perhaps in your case, a Spanish passport. I mean, it's
Peter, hold on. I'm going to give you some background music. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to know what you're going to do about your passport.
Hey? Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry. That was okay. That was a tribute. Right.
So whiny, so windy. Yeah. Okay, well, tell me, what are you going to do about your passport?
What am my passport? Mate, this is bigger than you or me. Okay, Mel, I want to ask Mel the sentiment in Germany, because they are guilt-ridden, but on the other hand, they have borne the brunt of a serious cultural diversion. Which is unfolding. Oh, go on.
Yeah. So I was looking at some numbers earlier. So basically, it's from 1990 to 2008. More people actually left Germany that came into the country. And in 2015, the net migration into Germany was 1 million people. In 2016, it was 750 million people. But what happens is that, for example,
what?
Yes.
Say that again.
The net migration into Germany in 2015 was 1 million people, and in 2016, 750,000 people. Sorry. Did I just say million?
Sorry. That was kind of a big difference. All right. It's like, whoa.
That doesn't even exist. So
the population moved to Germany last year? Wow.
Okay. Yeah, no, it is. Look, we're going to talk about this after the break. We'll have a bit of a break. But it is. These figures are enormous. They are huge. And we need. But Peter, Spain last year we brought in something like 60 odd people.
Yeah, terrible.
Seriously, I mean, it really is. I don't think in Spain we are quite aware of what's going on. Not in quite the same way as I don't think so. I don't think we are. I think that other parts of Europe are seeing it more. Austria and Italy and Greece.
I'll give you a story from Italy, because we were there, and apparently
you'll have to be quick. You've only got 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, very well. Apparently, in a racket, they will send out rescue boats, and they get paid for the number of people they rescue. So the traffickers put them to sea on the boats, and the Italians rescue them, and they make a bit of money. Anyway, that's one story from Italy.
That was a nice story, wasn't it? Well, that was nice. We're all feeling happy. We're coming back with Mel Carlow and Peter Heskett, Gary Branson and me, Olly Connolly, Jingly-Jangly after the break, after, whatever. Yeah. This is Revolution Radio, by the way. I thought the break was coming up. I suppose I'm just a wee bit early. music. There's no break. There's no break. No, there's no break today. No, we decided we wouldn't have a break today. We've run out of sponsors. If you like what we do, then go to the site and sponsor some money, lend us some money, because then we'll put an advert on for you. Oh, yes. You know, I love that Die Hard. That Die Hard movie. When they get the gold. All the bonds. Bonds, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we got Mel Carlow and Peter Heskett with Gary and me here on the Jingly-Jangly. And we're putting the world to rights. And we're sussing out Brexit and working out what to do. And we've got a plan. Peter, we've got a plan, haven't we? We've got a plan.
Now, before Peter responds to that, let me just say,
well, my plan.
I'm watching that Gotthard ceremony, and that stuff is awesome.
Oh, Gary, what did you see?
That is some serious Cirque du Soleil awesomeness going on in there. But I'm definitely going to have to smoke a fairly serious spliff before continuing to watch that whole thing with the sound. Because I'm on the radio. I can't watch it with the sound on, but that stuff is hot.
It's freaky, isn't it?
Hot, yeah.
It's satanic.
I dig it.
It looks satanic. They're dancing around in, sort of diabolical costumes. Looking, pagan. At least pagan. Yeah.
I mean, I'm the son of a Baptist minister. I know a thing or two about imagery and such. This is just pagan stuff. I wouldn't sweat it too hard.
Well, that's all right then, Mel. I mean, they're just a bit weird.
Yeah, and paganism and Luciferianism have some things in common. I think they both kind of originate in Egyptian and Gnosticism. So there's a link between the two, definitely.
But they're probably just having fun. They do that thing in Bohemian Grove, don't they? They go and sort of have a bit of a swanny around in front of a big owl.
Yes, and that is part of the Masonic kind of underground deep state that is the United States at the moment, I think.
Peter, were you ever asked to join the Masons?
No. No, I'm afraid I was always a bit of a free spirit and, well, not in the right sort of mold for the Masons, but...
Too much of a free spirit?
No, I suppose when I was doing that, I was doing the National Federation of Spiritual Healers, which is slightly different.
Right. That's got nothing to do with the Masons.
New Agey stuff. Absolutely not. But anyway, you saying the question you put, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah,
well, my answer is I'm going to work my socks off for the next 2 years doing business, selling my hydroflow, doing whatever I do, because at the end of 2 years, I can see it being really not good. Not a good time. And also, my advice to anyone watching, make some money if you can and save it, because you're going to need some savings.
Okay, why is it going to be any worse by Britain pulling out of the EU than if Britain stays in the EU and the EU? I mean, do you think the euro is going to survive? The euro, let alone the EU.
I think it's a question of a domino effect, really. That if with the UK manages to do it, then it's going to be followed by Italy and France, and then that will cause economic chaos in this region.
But you too, Mel, you think that it would not collapse were it not for Brexit? You think it would stay together anyway?
No, not really. It's doomed either way.
Well,
I mean, it kind of looks like that. It does look a bit like that, Peter, no?
Yeah. Well, it couldn't, may or may not, but the problem is if England take it down, we're going to suffer more. Like, I'm not actually a royalist. I don't have any time for our family, but they're, you know, the
What about
UK
Jimmy
has
Savile?
been as a historian, it just seems a bit strange to see an empire. Well, it's already gone, but the UK will be gone. Scotland will go, Ireland will probably go, and it's such a big change.
But isn't that the
But
point
it's
of Brexit?
That
That these countries are able to maintain their sovereignty and therefore their local laws and therefore their local culture, and that's part of the reason that the French are so upset and the Italians are so upset that Europe is actually imposing their laws, which is kind of destroying the culture and forcing migration into their countries, for example.
Well, the whole migration thing is pretty desperate, and I think Merkel, I don't know how she got it through, but she did the right thing at the time, letting them all in. But what could one do? I don't know, but it was just had terrible consequences. But as for the actual laws, there isn't one law which has been passed in England which you wouldn't have anyway, which has come from Europe, or rather, I can't think of one. The final one.
Bendy Bananas rule.
Yeah, but this is so long ago. There was hoo-ha over sausages too.
Bendy Bananas rule?
Yeah, you had to have your bananas bend in the same direction. By the same,
I think
same
I have no idea.
trajectory.
Please explain to us Westerners what that means.
Bananas have to have a perfect trajectory.
Yeah, but that was
I don't have any
days.
idea what you're talking about.
Neither am I, but they made a law about it. Yeah.
Please explain
Go
on, Mel. Give us some sanity.
Sorry, I think a recent law would be something to do with Hungary and their borders. I think that they were kind of forcing Hungary to take in more refugees than people in Hungary wanted to do, and so there's been like a big uproar in that country about its sovereignty and its local laws and its ability to protect its borders.
And Hungary is right on the European border.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is the law's been passed, but the Hungarians say up yours, not doing anything. And they're still in the EU, but it just, you know...
Well, if there's no respect
part of the problem
for the
is perhaps
centre...
that England have always followed the rules, like
we like
fishing thing.
Fishing. Yeah, destroying, decimating the... Sorry.
Having to throw away dead fish rather than bring them port. In Spain,
yeah, that's another one. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, Peter, you're supposed to be on the other side, by the way. You're supposed to be batting for the other side.
There's nothing wrong with the rules, but the whole thing about rules, they're made to be broken. In Spain, they fish anywhere they want, and they fill the fish cans full of tiny fish, which should have been given back to the sea.
And then they give them to all their mother-in-laws, don't they? That's what they do. Cook a nice big caldo.
Do they kill them in mustard first?
Throw them away. Yeah. They put them on the table. It's just absurd. Right. So it's the ridiculous side.
That's why it doesn't matter that they've got 50% unemployment in Andalusia because of the EU and because of the euro specifically. It doesn't matter because all these fishermen coming back, having looted the English fishermen of their fish, and they're coming back and they're putting all the fish on the table. And so they're all eating anyway. And that is the way the Spanish have survived over the course of, certainly through the Franco years. And they've still got a lot of that going on. And I say, God bless them, frankly. I mean, it seems to work. But the English are a law-abiding lot and frightened of missing a tax payment. Unless you're super rich, in which case you obviously, don't pay any tax. You just go and live in Necker Island or something and tell Europe that it needs to take in lots of migration. And then you get the ex-president of the United States comes to go kite surfing with you, Mr. Richard Branson. Oh yeah, no relation to Gary. And he's having a kite surf around all the boat people that Branson's invited to his island that have basically had to flee Libya because of Obama. I mean, I'll tell you, this is a sick world. We live in a two-tier system, don't we? It's like it's the 0.001%, and then it's the rest of us. Really, it's tyranny.
Well, yeah, I mean, the latest numbers for the number of people who own as much money as the bottom half of the entire population of the world. I think at last check, it was 67 people.
Yeah.
But as of this last year, it was like a dozen.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's crazy.
We're alluding to what you mentioned earlier, Gary, when sorry, I libeled you by calling you a liberal, but you
did nothing of the sort. I am a savage liberal. Make no mistake.
Savage.
We have to change this inequality, really, if we're going to hope to get anywhere with these wider issues.
If we don't, the torches and pitchforks are coming. You can see it all. You can see it in freaking Brexit. That's a torches and pitchforks event.
People are very
tolerant. You can see it in the
tolerant.
election of Trump. It's a torches and pitchforks event. And it's only going to get more violent unless we fix the wealth inequality situation in our societies. Otherwise, it's all going down in flames.
You could see that as a catalyst, though, and a positive thing in a way, because it means that more people have to become engaged in the process than were before.
True.
And the people that were kind of letting things by because Obama was in presidency and it was the politically correct thing to do, are now getting incensed because they've found that all of these things that were happening while Obama was in the presidency are actually just as awful as what Trump is doing now. So there's more people that are involved. And that's a positive way of looking at it would be that even though what's happening in the European Union right now is an implosion, that we individually and collectively can bring the solutions to the table and create a new perspective and a new idea of what a European Union could be. If Brexit does happen and it's elected and France leave, that there is the possibility for a new kind of mindset towards what a European Union could be or how we could build something that was more successful in that sense. But it's not going to happen as long as people are freaked out about the economy and losing their livelihoods and concentrating, I guess, on the more negative, disastrous aspects of the situation.
Peter,
when I voted...
Peter, Mel is winning the argument for me. I got to admit, Mel is currently winning the argument.
Oh, Peter, you've got to try harder, mate. You've got to try harder.
Well, my problem is that I really hope that Europe could be a force of good and get better. But the problem in terms of bringing it all together again is that in England, for sure, there's such a racial tension, hatred, all these negative things which have been perhaps bottled up. But now,
I wonder how much of that is propaganda, to be honest with you. I know there is a bit.
I have people, first-hand experience, people who are coming from England to Spain just to get away from this.
From London. Are you talking London or are you talking England? More largely? Just out of interest, because London, I know, is like that.
That's a good question. I was chatting to a Polish woman who was
pleading the fifth.
She was from Edinburgh. She was working in Edinburgh as a biochemist or something, and suddenly it was all sorts of horridness. And to get the Brits back into Europe, it's going to be really tough. But anyway, to get back to this business, super rich, it's very clear that the only way forward is to close down the fiscal paradises. But unfortunately,
the tax havens.
There seems to be no movement in that direction. Andorra, Monaco, Gibraltar, Jersey, Isle of Man, Liechtenstein, they're all just laundering money. And it's just so sick.
And that's despite the Panama Papers disclosure. Sorry, Gary, go on.
Oh yeah, you're talking about all these tax haven. You call them,
that's
you call them fiscal paradises. That's a good term.
Yeah,
like that.
if they had to charge,
he's probably got money in all of them.
No, I haven't got any money at all. But that's by the way. But it would be so nice if Jersey paid the same taxes as in England, because then super rich would pay some tax, and that would be a start to leveling things out. But this idea of being able to live in Switzerland and pay no tax is just absurd.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It is really bad, and that's something Europe could do if it had a different mindset, because the European Union could, at a stroke, just enforce these changes. And
but Peter, that's not going to happen with
it's not.
With a political construct which is led by a guy that, as Prime Minister of Liechtenstein, or where was it? Juncker's old backyard, Luxembourg, PM of there. He basically spent all of his time working out tax dodges for enormous, great big corporations that had their HQ there and didn't even trade there. There. They trade in places like Ireland, the UK, Germany, France, whatever. But they've got their HQ in Juncker's old backyard because they pay 2% tax or something. So bugger all tax.
It's fucking scandalous and against the national governments, which could stop this. The British government could so easily pass a law saying that.
Yeah, but the fact they don't.
For offshore companies are not tax deductible, and they could make it just inconvenient to have your head office abroad.
Yes, but Peter, the fact is they haven't done that. I agree with you. When I voted by postal vote, I'm sure you did, and I guess Mel did from Germany. When I voted, I took a photograph of mine. I was so chuffed, I'll tell you. It's really sad.
Technically, I'm Spanish, so I didn't vote.
You didn't vote? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we're quite right. Absolutely. I actually know one Spanish guy who got married to an American bloke because they were living in the UK. His American partner was able to vote and act as though he was a Brit under EU law in the referendum. But anyway, there you go. So I voted and sent off my form or what have you. When I voted, one of the things I was hoping, I didn't hold out much hope, but I was hoping that the EU itself might reform, might say, you know what, those negotiations, we didn't take them seriously enough, those ones with Cameron and Jean-Claude Juncker. He didn't fall on his sword and say, I failed. He just said, you know what, we need an EU army. In other words, we need more EU, not less. Let alone reforming, we need more, and we need, so if they were to reform, Peter, I thought if we get a Brexit vote, the EU will reform. They will immediately go into an operation to reform, and then we will talk again, because I think that the appetite with the British people, 48-52 in favour of Brexit. I think the appetite was so closely matched that had the EU gone away straight away and said, we'll do some real thinking here, I think that there would have been more of a case for example, a second referendum or having a bit of a rethink.
They did in Ireland, for example.
But they didn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they did. And in France as well, Mel. They were given second referendums when they voted against the EU, and the second time they voted to stay. But we wanted them to reform, but they don't want to reform. They're not showing any sign of reforming at all. We're hearing a bit of panic because suddenly they're going to lose a third of their budget or something like that. Like, how are we going to prop up the wine cellar? But
I think part of the problem is that a lot of the people who are in high positions in the EU are actually part of this kind of like revolving door situation where they also work for Goldman Sachs, for example. I think it was Mario Monti. He was a European commissioner. He was an international advisor to Goldman Sachs. He was the European chairman of the Trilateral Commission. So these people already have an agenda.
Parachuted into Italy, wasn't he? Yeah. Technocrat. And then they did the same with Renzi, didn't they? In fact, they've had 3 technocrats in a row in Italy. I mean,
and these people don't have an interest in reform. What they want to do is they want to play out their agenda, and they have an agenda to play out, and they're going to do it until they basically get what they want, which is a European supranational state. But at this moment, it doesn't look like it's going to happen that soon.
Peter, what Mel's talking about there, with these guys being parachuted in, mentioning Ireland, with the second referendum being forced when the first time they basically said, no, we don't like the Lisbon Treaty, or what it was before it became the Lisbon Treaty. It's tyranny, actually. There's no democracy there.
Well, referendums, it's a very strange sort of democracy. It's more like populism, and
they've had 3 technocrats in a row in charge of Italy, Peter. 3 technocrats in a row parachuted in from the EU, not elected by the Italians. That is absolute beggar's belief, does it not?
Well, I just come back to the point that Brexit is going to cause a lot of hardship in the UK. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are going to be lost. A lot of people are going to jump off bridges because how the hell do you pay your mortgage when you haven't got an income? It's going to be really tough. And for the
you could be right
individual people, I mean, it's really, it's tough at the minute. Apparently rents are sky high in Southeast, etc., etc. But it's tough at the moment, but it's going to be really tough. And maybe it will play out. We can only hope that France goes with Marine Le Pen and Brussels actually starts making changes enough to bring them back in. But the problem is that this nationalism, which has been stirred up in England, is like a genie. It won't go back in the bottle. It's out there now, and it'll be difficult to put it away again. Similarly, the French, if they get Marine Le Pen, they will, they'll be marching in the streets, Marseillaise and all the rest of it. It'll be very difficult to get back to a European dream. And so, it's all very
But we don't have a European dream, though. That's the problem. We don't have a European dream.
Well, you and I might have done. They certainly have a different dream to us in Brussels, that's for sure.
I have a question because, Peter, you're from a different generation than I am, I'm guessing, and so you probably remember what
He's younger than you, Mel. You're big ages.
In spirit, perhaps, but no,
What the UK actually used to be like when there wasn't this kind of like multicultural kind of imposition and all these European laws and the original kind of British culture and where it is now. I mean, there must be some difference.
Tell us about the Boer War, Peter.
Well, the England of my 20s, which was quite some time ago, was...
Is that your 20s or the 20s?
No, my 20s. Okay, look back at the 80s and 70s, that's the thing. I remember coming to London in 1970s, whatever it was, and being struck how the place is just full of foreigners. You'd walk around Hyde Park and the place, you would just be full of gentlemen in Arabian costumes. And okay, that part of London was very popular with the Arabs, the Saudis, or what have you. And what has changed is that now, instead of so many Arabs and things, you've got a hell of a lot more Europeans, a whole lot of Spanish, a whole lot of everybody. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. London has always been very cosmopolitan. You go out to the outlying sort of the home counties, and then you get the more English villages. And there's some which are so English, it's unbelievable. And there are others where they've had housing, they've had to make housing available for immigrants or refugees. And yeah, they're parts of England which are quite untouched, and parts which have got more than their fair share of immigrants. And funnily, in the Brexit vote, it was the areas which didn't have immigrants who all voted for Brexit. It's really weird, whereas the ones which had the immigrants were, well, partly because a lot of the immigrants had the vote, of course, but, mainly they were for remaining. It was
Hold on, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? I'll tell you what, people are going to think, You are a Remainer, aren't you? You are, Peter, because you're selling the case on both sides very well. It's difficult though. It is difficult.
Now, I'm a Remainer because I just see blood in the streets in the future. People
Peter,
killing themselves.
Do you not
in
see
Spain,
that
I know 6 people who topped themselves during the crisis. It was that tough. But what we've seen here is nothing compared to what they can have in England. It's going to be really tough.
I hear that.
And you may think about these fat cats in the city. Okay, so they lose their job, bad luck. Well, the fact is, each one of them who's making a fortune in the city is paying a lot of taxes, and those taxes go to prop up the benefits system and national health. Take out the city, and you're going to have a whole lot less income in order to pay for everything else. And it's going to be really messy.
You're not going to have an NHS in the near future because the current government is trying to get rid of it already. So that's not something to worry about.
We can't afford it.
They're trying to get rid of it. They can't keep up with
They're trying to privatize it.
But, well, the main thrust of it is to give free care. And
the bottom line
bad.
Is the welfare cost. They're taxes, after all. But it's also, you're giving welfare to foreign countries who don't even speak the same language on the other side of Europe. Then you've got a problem, haven't you? I mean, that it just doesn't make sense.
Well, now let me give the Western perspective on that exact thing, because we mentioned that we needed a United States of Europe, just like we had a United States
it was only a joke.
America.
That was Olly,
right.
Yeah.
But you are talking about Britain paying into taxes to provide things for countries that don't even speak the same language on the other side of Europe.
Well, in Spain, for example, we've got fantastic infrastructure, which has been paid for basically by the Brits and the Germans. It's awesome. It's brilliant. Great motorways crisscrossing the country. It's a fantastic high-speed railway. Really, really, really good fun to go on and beautiful.
Yeah, and the road to those things was really nicely cleared by all the devastation of World War II. So that was really very handy of the Brits and the Germans to clear all that space away where there's used to be nice buildings. Now there's all this space to put all this other infrastructure.
Gary, you're sounding so.
Gary, Spain wasn't in the Second World War.
That's right. Bloody crying out loud. Okay, so anyway, you can't get the US political correspondence. But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, all this money is basically being taken. I'm not saying that there aren't some good things that the money's being spent on. And actually, I personally think that the West does need to answer after its sins, even though they're not the sins of the taxpayer, they're the sins of the elite. And I think we need to help, for example, Syria get back on its feet, and Libya and all these other places that we should never have been involving ourselves in the first place. And these people, we need to help them. We need to help them. But let me on another side.
Right. Otherwise, they want to come to Europe. We've got to help them get their countries back together. Otherwise,
also, Peter, they probably love their cultures too, and would rather that they had their cultures intact rather than being bombed to oblivion and having to sort of beg from a foreign culture that is kind of looking suspiciously at them as well. It's not working well on either side, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be charity and all the rest of it either. I'm not saying that. But the other thing I was going to say, just to move this conversation on slightly, is about trade, because what we actually have with Europe is a protectionist trade racket that helps the people, the countries within Europe, perhaps, basically because they don't have to pay 2.5% trade, the amount that you pay when you
tariff.
Yeah, there you go, tariffs. Yeah. Thank you, Gary. We're not going to pay. So you instead of that, you've got this trade racket, but as soon as you go outside of Europe, that's a problem, because the African farmers, for example, suffer as a result of that. They can't trade on an even. And another reason why, guess what? People want to migrate to Europe, because the Europeans are making it so damn difficult for them to trade, and they're bombing them out of their homes. I mean, Peter, do you not? Would you sympathise with the idea that Europe is a little bit hypocritical when it talks about sort of being a force for good, and actually it's creating a really difficult, uneven trading.
Yeah, no, I agree. Europe is not perfect. It's so long ago. My daughter was 6 years old, so where is that? She's 25 now. So 20 years ago, I did the march down Park Lane with my sign saying no to federalism, blah, blah, blah. I was a member of UKIP, believe it or not. I was. In the early days, I was dead against the euro and all the rest of it. But, okay, I'm a European now, and I would have much preferred Britain to stay in Europe. But it's not going to be. And frankly, we're going to have some changes. And hopefully it'll all come through. And you're right about maybe we'll all start growing whatever in Africa and buy from Africa and sell to Africa. And oh God, I don't know. It's just worrying. Anyway,
I think
for a long time.
Oh, Peter, go on.
Yeah, well, okay. I was just going to round off saying for a long time I fought this, but now with the way the Parliament is going in England, it doesn't look like it's going to turn around, and so it's almost time to accept and just somehow.
I agree.
Live with it. And so,
do you think that Tony Blair looked a bit silly this week?
Like crazy. No, I don't think he did at all. What he said was absolute sense, but it's too late. He should have said that 6 months ago.
Well,
what the hell? Why? He should have done it with partners. He should have done it with Gordon Brown just to stand up by himself. Was asking to be shot down.
Mel, you talk for 20 minutes now. Go ahead.
Personally, I don't think that I want to listen to what Tony Blair has to say because he's a war criminal. But besides that, I think that the situation, it looks terrible. But I don't know that that's what Theresa May, for example, wants, as I was under the understanding that the people that were assigned to follow through with all of the technical things about Brexit were kind of not a very capable bunch of people. And so they were trying to delay the process and possibly looking into all kind of legal loopholes as to which or why they wouldn't be able to kind of completely detach from the European Union. So I don't know that that's actually officially the case. From when I was in the UK and I was looking at the possibility of Brexit, I did kind of see some talks from some lawyers that were saying that this whole kind of the interaction of all the laws of Europe and the UK together is so complex that it's very difficult to kind of untangle the whole thing from the European Union. So it's not, like you said, it's probably going to be a question of a couple of years at least. And I think that, just to summarize, I think that there was going to be some type of climactic situation, where things kind of come to a point, whether that was going to be now or in the next 5 or 8 years, in a different way. But I think that's kind of what you're looking at, a generational kind of decision in which, the new generation is looking at what their job prospects are and what the realistic the reality of their ability to buy a home, for example, and the economic situation, and what their choices were. And I think, frankly, that a lot of people in the UK felt like they were pushed to make this decision because they really had no alternative as to looking into the future and seeing that they also had possibilities. And that has something to do with the economy internationally, as it is anyway. This whole thing about 6 people or 8 people owning half the amount of wealth in the world. But at the same time, people found someone to blame for it. And I think intuitively it might have been right. to be honest.
Oh. Sorry, Mel, what might have been right? Sorry, I was listening.
The decision to Brexit, just like voting for Trump. I mean, it's kind of like when you're pushed against the rock and a hard place. You know, either decision is going to be bad, but you're going to take the alternative that looks like it has the greatest possibility, which is when you destroy things, at least something can come out of it, as opposed to...
I was slightly surprised. I thought that it would be the exact opposite result, actually. I thought it would be 48 wanting to leave and
really
the Remainers being just the slight majority.
I used to work fundraising, so I used to talk to hundreds of people a day, and you could really like sense the mood towards the, you know, like Brexit just being a kind of solution to a lot of people because of the instability, economic instability and uncertainty of people, that they just really had no way out to kind of, I don't know.
You know, one thing that really struck me was the timing of this. I had this been left another 10 years with what's happening with migration. I mentioned, you know, some kind of dubious voting patterns earlier with my mate and his American husband, who, you know, is now British because of Europe, you know, which is, and I'll tell you what, he's great as well. He's a really valuable contribution to the country. But what we've seen with Europe, and it's happened time and time again, we saw it with Northern Ireland. The British did it to Ireland, in Northern Ireland. We've seen demographic engineering. So the Brits did it in Northern Ireland, for example, by shipping in a load of Protestants to, you know, divide the Catholics, which is exactly what happened. And guess who's in charge of the tax revenues from Northern Ireland ever since? And that's basically what's happened in Europe as well, throughout Europe. And the British referendum, I reckon, was what it was, clearly a knife edge. But I reckon another 10 years and it would have gone the other way. I mean, you look at the amount of migration in London, for example. I mean, London is it doesn't remind me of the London I knew from my youth. I mean, it's very, very, it's more sort of, if you like, foreign looking. But having said that, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a terrible thing either, because London has always been like that. I mean, I think it's considerably more now because we can all get in planes and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty natural in many, many ways. There's different ways of looking at all these things. But nonetheless, it doesn't look like the London that I knew like 20 years ago at all. And but that's just London. If you go outside of London, then people are, you know, very different again. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of migration throughout the country. Sure, there is. But not in anything like the same, on the same magnitude as there is in a place like London or Birmingham, say, and the big cities. So but this is changing. This has been changing over the course. The demographic has been changing in the UK visibly over the course of the last 10 years. And I reckon another 10 years, had they had a referendum then, had they managed to put it off that long, it would have swung in favour of Remain. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, if it had been done differently, it would have gone Remain.
But in 10 years...
62.5% of the registered voters did not vote for Brexit. Basically, Boris Johnson completely bamboozled everyone, and it was on a working day. It was on a Thursday, and so the working didn't get to vote, and a lot of people really didn't know what to vote because it was so confusing, everything. So they didn't vote, and that was 27.5% of the registered voters didn't vote. And for sure,
but you could also argue, Peter, that they were not passionate enough. You could also argue that 27% that didn't vote were also not passionate enough to vote to stay. And so that argument works both ways.
I was watching British news and thinking, I actually signed my voting paper with Marcella, who's much more strictly Remainer than I am. And I made sure I signed Remain, but it was a little part of me which could easily have voted Brexit, so easily, simply because of all the nonsense being peddled by the Boris and everyone. It was.
You were,
but anyway, this is
you were
great.
pulled to the
So
dark side.
Let me leave that for a minute and go back to something Mel said about the complications of European laws. Really, they're just overcomplicated. There'll be one act which says something like, all EU laws are now British laws, yes or no, yes, that's it, bang. It's a no-brainer. There's not one law which we wouldn't have. And if there is one, then they go
the
back
banana one. You don't want the banana one.
Yeah, but there wasn't a law. That was dropped. As long Gary will
They don't want any Brussels banana.
In the early days of the Union, they talked about food standards, and they wanted to call the British sausage. They wanted to say, well, it can't be called sausage because it's got so much bread in it, and there was a bit of a hoo-ha
Call it a
on that,
sandwich.
and they had to back down on that. So the British have their banger, but the fact is, it's not really a sausage at all. Not compared with the Germans and the Spanish ones. So it's all meat and bread. But anyway,
I wouldn't know. I'm vegetarian.
Bangers have bread in them.
They do. The British banger has a good watch of bread or wheat, or they're certainly not gluten-free.
Good to know.
Yeah, you get it all on here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I went off.
No, please do, Peter. It's
please,
wonderful.
Carry on.
It's wonderful. Mel, we are going to lose certain things, aren't we? We are in danger of losing certain. We have gained something from human rights in the UK from Europe, I think. No, from the EU.
That's actually something that I used to talk about, and I really wish that I could remember half of the stuff that I used to talk about. But it is it's not that easy. But it is an issue which is not actually as straightforward as you would think. A lot of the European laws or the UK laws in terms of human rights were a lot more stringent than European ones. And when it came down to it, the European Union isn't really able to enforce the adherence of these laws in countries. So, for example, right now, Julian Assange is still stuck in the embassy in the UK. And even though the United Nations has voted that this is illegal, nobody is actually enforcing the fact that he should be outside of that situation or be protected, because I don't think that that's one of the European Union's priorities, believe it or not.
They don't seem to care. I haven't heard them say anything about Assange.
They don't seem to care about that and about just human rights laws when it comes down to actual situations and cases. The case of the refugees, for example.
On the other hand, we've heard this week about the Guantanamo Bay detainee who was let out after a lot of pleading from the human rights lobby. And I imagine, actually, Amnesty, for example, Mel, I imagine, was really on that case with the Guantanamo Bay lot. And understandably so. But, well, I don't know, because he comes out and he blows himself up, as a suicide bomber. He got £1 million in the process of compensation. I mean, he also lost probably, 10 years of his life or something. I mean,
he was probably tortured to oblivion and that mental state where humanity there's no purpose for it.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's a rotten example, in fairness, because he could well have been a very innocent man before he went into Guantanamo anyway, and then been, well, I reckon it would make me convert being in that. If I was being waterboarded, I don't think I'd, exactly start getting Stockholm syndrome anytime soon. But but no, human rights. So you're saying that it's a mixed bag, that some of it is not as good, and But you mentioned earlier, for example, the Monsanto situation, trying to keep because the UK would grow anything. The British government seems to want to do ruin the land, frack it, frack. Do all of that.
Even worse. Yeah.
The EU is actually protecting Europe from these things, or has been.
brace yourself. This is one of my crazy theories, but another problem, reaction, solution situation in which we should never have had to choose between real food and genetically modified food. We should always have had real food just being called real food and labeling genetically modified food. But what we're in fact doing is labeling organic food. So what we have to do, like farmers and people in the agricultural industry, is that now they have to get permits, they have to get inspections, they have to go through this, insane process to be able to label their food as organic. And it's a costly process as well. So not everybody can produce organic produce and label it, even though it's possibly organic. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go into the market being labeled organic, which means that you're still not within regulation. So if you want to be within them, you have to spend a lot of money. So I think this is also a possible situation of problem, reaction, solution, where you create this kind of genetically modified chaos, and then you give the solution, which is, right, now we have to label them, and guess who's going to put that solution into place? It's the European Union. So that's just one of my crazy theories, but it's a good thing.
Gary's a big foodie. Did you?
Mel,
Yes.
I see on your Facebook profile that you're in a relationship. I'm going to put that guy in a box, and you can come hang out with me. You're awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're engaged actually, so it's a bit late.
Phooey.
But he's got chickens.
I do.
Well, we're winning,
hey,
aren't we? We're winning. We're getting there.
On that exact note, there's a story that I've been wanting to break today that I think is the perfect time, because we're in the last 15 minutes of the show.
Hey.
I think we have all concluded that Brexit is A, happening, and B, is a mixed bag. So, but in honor of Mel and her beau being engaged and all that, I would like to talk a little bit about Sweden. Because there is a guy who sits on the city council of Övertorneå, Sweden. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation horribly. But in a town of Sweden, there's a guy named Per-Erik Muskos who is advocating for and has introduced local ordinance legislation for paid breaks for sex during work hours. This is not a joke. This is real. Per-Erik Muskos.
Oh shit! I'm stopped. Oh no! Oh, sorry. Apologies.
That's okay. This kind of story is worth having that thing go a little extra long. That was good. But he expressed concern about couples who do not have enough time together, and noted that studies show that sex is healthy. It's about having better relationships. And he emphasized that the wellness benefits, which he said would be enjoyed by both single and coupled people, it would help make them more productive in the workplace. And
more reproductive at home.
Nicely done. Nicely done. I told Olly to get his innuendo prepared because it was going to be spurting all over the place, and he did not disappoint.
Those Swedes, they're yeah. I've heard about those saunas.
Oh yeah, those saunas are a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I would like to experience.
I was just wondering how this relates to my GMO perspective at all, if at all.
It
doesn't, but it was in honor of you and your fiance being engaged.
Okay.
Because I came on and did the flirtation thing, and I want to just use that as a segue to talking about Sweden and its sexual workplace practices. Because go team! People in America talk about how socialist and awful hellholes Northern European socialist countries are, and they got so much cooler stuff going on than we do in so many different areas that America has a lot of work to do if we're going to back up our claim of being the so-called greatest nation on earth. We got some work to do.
That reminds me of that Michael Moore movie where he's taking ideas from different countries around the world and taking them back to America. I'm not trying to plug him, but
the Who Should We Invade Next?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Plug away. I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Michael Moore, Who Should We Invade Next? Google it. It's going to be great.
The thing is, there's nothing more to say, is there? I feel as though I've come to the end of a conversation that's been going on for years about the EU, not Europe, the EU, and it's like I don't know about you guys, but I'm a bit tired at the end of it. I'm a bit fed up of it. I'm looking forward to moving on now, and it's like at the moment we're just in a kind of a state of limbo where this is important. You got to cross the T's, dot the I's, and all that. Get some kind of make sure that the wheels don't fall off any more than is absolutely necessary. But it is all a bit like, oh God, what? We seem to have spent a long time going down a really weird road, which never added up mathematically. This EU thing, the Euro thing, I should say, but we went down it. We went down it with our head is this brick wall until the wall's fallen down. Well, no, it hasn't. The EU's still there. But it's just Peter, do you have some interesting conversations with Marcella, your other half, who is very more ardent than are you with regards to Remain?
No, I'm like you. I'm tired. I'm tired of Brexit. I'm tired of the whole thing. And the extraordinary coincidences made it happen. Like May could so easily have become Prime Minister, say, well, look, now we've got to look at it. But no, she came up with Brexit means Brexit, and that sort of started a chain of events. When that woman got it to go before Parliament, we all thought, well, Parliament might stand up. And what happened? Corbyn keeled over. It's just been incredible. So it's meant
Labour
to
leader.
be, and there's
leader.
nothing we can do about it, and bugger it.
It is amazing that a citizen of Great Britain, just a regular person, went to the High Court, took the government to court, and managed to get the High Court to rule that the Parliament must have a say in Brexit. As it turns out, that doesn't seem to mean anything.
But what beggars belief with May is that she should think that she didn't have to talk to Parliament. I mean, incredible. This woman who was not elected, she has no mandate. The Tories in the last election pledged.
She had the mandate of a referendum, you could argue.
No, she
did. Well, you could argue.
Yeah, but that's not a referendum. Is not an election. A referendum was a populist, whatever. And then,
but Cameron said, PM Cameron, he said, you know what? If this goes, if you vote for it, it's going to happen. That's it. And you know what? It's going to be World War III, and you can all have the plague, and the kitty gets cancer. If you vote for Brexit, that is all going to happen. That's what he said. He said it will happen. It's not just advisory. He said, no, Mel.
Well, I think it's the only thing that he said, which was probably not a lie. But that's just my opinion. But I think that everybody needs to just go back to the books and find out about the history of the EU, understand the purpose of it being put together, who it was put together by, why it was put together, and maybe it will make some sense to everybody as why we're in the situation that we're at the moment.
Are there any particular titles that you'd recommend, Mel?
Well, I think that there's a lot of documentaries about the history of the EU, but from my perspective, it's a little bit more complicated than just looking at documentaries about the EU. You have to look at the historical context of who put together the EU. So I think I would go back to, learning about the Masons and probably looking at Daniel Esterlin's theories about Bilderberg and the history of the EU, and I don't really have any at the moment, but I could probably link them to you at some point off the top of my head.
Mel, thank you very much. Mel Carlow. Peter, thank you so much, mate.
Well, it's been amazing. And
Gary,
well, go.
Gary Branson, God bless you, mate.
Thank you, everybody. You've been a lovely
up.
audience and participants in this great debate.
Yeah, it's been good fun. It's been really good fun. I'm really pleased that we sorted it out and everybody's friends, and we didn't fall out. Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, you've got Mike Harris coming up. So short end of the stick with Mike on Revolution Radio. This has been Jingly-Jangly. Thank you very, very much indeed for listening.
Thank you.
Cheers, Mel. God bless you. God bless you, Peter. Cheers, Gary.
Bye.
Oh, hold on. You know what? That was actually my comedy. I'm not doing very well with these outros today. I think I got the I think I got the timing wrong again.
I think you're like 5 minutes off, Ollie.
Yeah, you're 5 minutes off.
2:55 p.m. We got 5 more minutes to kill.
No, hold on. It's 11:56. What time do you make it?
2:55.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
I'm a third of the way around the world from you.
I'm gonna get a new clock. God bless everybody.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.